Hi, and welcome to 3 Things in 3 Minutes. I'm Nersi. Today we are looking at Tang from Thundergraph Games. It plays 1 to 4 players with a solo variant and plays in about 45 minutes or maybe longer. What it's about. Tang is a tile placement and set collection game in which players are cultivating a communal imperial Chinese garden. So each round, players will do one of the following 2 things. You'll either place a tile trying to connect some elements in the garden to advance up on 3 different tracks and to place some landscape tiles in the distance, or to draft and play some decoration cards, collecting points for sets and trying to add elements onto the board. Now, in moving up these tracks, the players will also acquire visitors, which will give them special abilities, and then they'll try to place them in the garden to score points for their individual desires based on what they want to see in their line of sight of the garden. Now, what I like, the first thing you'll probably notice is that the game is beautiful. And so that really makes sense for a game that's about creating a beautiful imperial garden. The components in the illustration are top-notch, and the miniatures are nicely detailed. And the garden ends up looking pretty organic when you're done due to some of the restrictions on the tile placement. The game also manages to mix both tile laying and set collection together, keeping either one from feeling stale. And the added strategy of where you place your visitors and the direction they're facing is also pretty interesting, and you can actually interfere a bit with other players by denying their visitors' needs. And although there's some decent strategy in the tile laying, the game always feels accessible. The turns move pretty quickly because even with all the tile laying, the rules actually limit your options enough that it feels pretty open without being paralyzing. Now, points to consider. The game tries to balance each action by diminishing the rewards for players taking the same actions back to back. However, depending on what the other players do, you might find that if they're always doing the same thing on their turns, you'll find that just always doing the opposite follow-up action may be your best bet, and that can make the game feel a bit limiting and on the rails. And as beautiful as the components are, they actually can make the game a little bit harder to play. So for example, the pavilions look great, but they can actually make it very hard to see which visitor is inside and which direction they're facing. And so similarly, the landscape tiles have small icons with these colored rings on them that match the visitors and their desired panoramas, but they're actually pretty hard to see without actually getting close. And even the colored bases are sometimes pretty hard to tell apart. And the game has a fair amount of iconography that can be a bit hard to fathom, especially on the character cards. So for at least your first few plays, you should expect to have to reference them a lot. So, in summary, it's a game that unites some tile laying and set collection elements with some nice strategic components as well, although your actions can feel a bit locked in. It has some absolutely gorgeous components that really fit the theme, even though they make the gameplay elements sometimes hard to see. And the game actually feels nicely accessible and has some fast turns that only get slowed down a bit by looking up icons. Thanks so much for watching. Please make sure you like and share the video and subscribe to the channel.